During disasters, FEMA and our federal partners provide assistance to individuals and families whose property has been damaged or destroyed as a result of a federally declared disaster and whose losses are not covered by insurance. This assistance is delivered through a variety of programs. Historically, FEMA's community relations team served a critical role in disaster response and recovery by supporting disaster survivors and providing essential information to our response partners. Recently, based on lessons learned during FEMA's response to Hurricane Sandy in late 2012, the role of community relations was expanded, enabling teams to meet survivors at their homes or in their communities to address their immediate and emerging needs on an individual basis and to register them for FEMA disaster assistance. Building on these successes, FEMA leadership transferred the community relations cadre from the Office of External Affairs to the Recovery Directorate in April 2013. To reflect this expanded role and our renewed commitment to make services more survivor-centric, the cadre name has been changed to Disaster Survivor Assistance, or DSA. Disaster Survivor Assistance Teams, or DSATs, support state, tribal, local, territorial, and federal requirements during disaster response and recovery operations. DSATs have the ability to quickly deploy in anticipation of or immediately following a disaster declaration and can provide operational situational awareness of conditions, needs, and activity in the affected area. They provide support to disaster survivors at their homes or in their communities, offering options for how to access information about FEMA disaster assistance. The DSA mission is to address survivors' immediate needs by establishing a timely presence, providing in-person tailored information and services, providing referrals to whole community partners as needed, collecting targeted information to support decision-making, and identifying public information needs so critical messaging can be developed and disseminated. DSATs achieve their mission by conducting 5 essential functions, often concurrently. They are the AIR mission: assess, inform, and report. DSATs assess what's really happening in the community. They inform disaster officials of those conditions and report back to the operations section. On-site registration intake. Using mobile technology, DSATs offer survivors the opportunity to register for assistance on the spot. Case status inquiries and updates. Mobile tools allow DSATs to check and verify information already provided by survivors, update their record, or discuss next steps in the assistance process. Pre- or post-registration survivor needs assessments. DSATs are trained to assess survivor needs and identify available assistance whenever and wherever they interact with survivors. Referral to whole community partners. DSATs inform survivors about the range of help available in the community and maintain close contacts with state, tribal, and local governments and with other response and recovery partners.
DSATs recognize that our larger scope of responsibilities raises concerns about how many survivors can be reached in a timely manner. Because DSATs have expanded the services available to survivors during their first interaction with FEMA, sometimes this first meeting takes longer than it used to. We still offer information about disaster assistance, but now we are also able to address individuals' needs the first time they contact FEMA. To best support survivors, we are continuously gathering information about what is needed and where communities are recovering. FEMA and our emergency management partners use that information to make decisions and allocate resources where they are needed most.
The basic field model for a DSA team is 6 to 8 people, but the number of DSATs and management support deployed is based on the size of the operation, the level of the incident, and the request from state, tribal, and local governments. During a federally declared emergency or disaster, DSATs follow the Incident Command System, and reports are provided to the Operations Section Chief at the Joint Field Office, or JFO. DSATs work with the JFO's operations section and are guided by state, tribal, and local priorities. They focus on assisting those that need help the most after disasters. The teams are agile, using mobile technology to provide information and resources to survivors. And they're economical, operating with minimal equipment and management support. DSATs gather real-time information that is used to validate and reevaluate operational priorities as needed.
And in September of this year, we experienced some of the worst flooding the state of Colorado has ever experienced. We had between 8 and 14 inches of rain that fell over a 4-day period. Before the rain had stopped, we had FEMA disaster survivor assistance teams on the ground here in Colorado Springs. And they also did air missions, which included going out to the various affected communities or parts of those communities and assessing the situation, providing information not only to the disaster survivors, but as well as to the emergency managers, and then reporting that information back. The most important role that they provided to us was getting that information out to the disaster survivors, being able to sit down face to face by going door to door and providing that information to those disaster survivors, getting them registered promptly so that we could get the paperwork running, get the inspectors out to assess the damage, and get the money on the ground to help those disaster survivors. Our work experience with the disaster survivor assistance teams has been fantastic.
FEMA recognizes that successful disaster response depends on involvement from whole community partners who understand the diverse needs of the impacted populations. DSA partners with the whole community.
Based on the priorities established by the affected state, tribal, or local government, DSA target populations with the greatest need for assistance. DSA reaches out to those who might not otherwise register for disaster assistance or don't understand the process. DSA helps those who don't feel capable of registering on their own.
FEMA maintains close relationships with internal and external partners to best support the needs of disaster survivors. External partners include voluntary organizations, community and faith-based organizations, local leaders, local shelter managers, other federal agencies, tribal nations and organizations, law enforcement, and others. Altogether, they offer additional services to support survivor needs. Working together, DSATs can provide information on services provided by whole community partners that can provide survivor-centric support to those affected by disasters.
During the disaster, I was the operations section lead, and then after the disaster, I was appointed the flood assistance coordinator with the city of Manitou Springs, and that's when I met with the DSA team. We toured the city of Manitou Springs. They were very professional people, very caring people. As you know, when our residents come out and they see FEMA written on a shirt, they just swarm these poor folks, and the folks did a great job of being very compassionate and listening to their needs and answering their questions. Not only were they out in our city, but it happened to have our fire department open house at the same time. And I extended the offer to them to come down and sit at our open house for about 6 hours. And the team came out, they sat at our open house, they answered all our folks' questions, including my firefighters' questions. And that was just, to me, was above and beyond what their role actually should be.
DSAT members receive training that addresses the DSA mission and essential functions, FEMA individual assistance programs and disaster registration intake, reporting protocol and the use of reporting tools, performing applicant inquiries and updates, interpersonal communication skills and stress management, how to support and collaborate with whole community partners, and use of internet web resources specifically designed for DSA use. Specialists also receive technical training on the use of tablets.
DSA has expanded its knowledge of FEMA programs to include individual assistance. Specialists receive extensive training which is designed to give them an overview of individual assistance programs. They are trained to manage expectations of what aid is available in any given emergency. The more we can do to help the survivor, the better. Sometimes the best things our teams do is free up time for disaster recovery centers and the National Processing Service Centers, allowing them to assist survivors with more difficult casework.
DSATs use tablets and portable IT equipment. By leveraging technology, they remain mobile, and they're able to help survivors in the most heavily affected areas. The tablets they use are loaded with applications to track data and perform quality control checks. Using Geographic Information System, or GIS-based applications, DSAT members capture data which is uploaded to the FEMA Geo platform. There, it is available for other teams, response officials, and the general public to view.
FEMA's Geo platform is a combination of maps and analytical information used to provide real-time information and analysis to whole community partners. It provides an overview of critical and emerging issues and outlines DSA field activity by providing a map showing where each DSA has operated, what accomplishments were made, and any follow-up that might be needed.
DSATs work with FEMA's National Processing Service Centers, or NPSCs, to ensure applicant registrations, updates, and inquiries are processed correctly. NPSC personnel work closely with DSA specialists to prevent errors and provide training that ensures efficient and accurate registration of disaster survivors. The FEMA DSA teams are an agile, efficient federal resource supporting state, tribal, and local governments impacted by disaster. The DSATs are empowered to serve people who need the most help after disasters. They address unmet needs during the survivor's first interaction with FEMA. DSATs provide real-time information to disaster officials to help them determine the best way to allocate resources and support community recovery. They coordinate with whole community partners to ensure survivors receive as much help as possible while they rebuild and recover from disasters. For more information about disaster survivor assistance teams, please visit us online.